All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to 12th grade night, your second to last 12th grade night at New North High School. Congratulations. We'll get one more in May where we tell you, let's finish the year strong, and these are the things we need to make sure we do during senior slump to make sure it goes successfully. That's what that purpose of that day is. This one is to get you ready for senior year. And can I get a show of hands? How many of you have done this before? This is not your first rodeo, as they say. Okay, other families turn around. Those are the people to ask lots of questions to. They may have grayer hair, but they have survived. They have survived. I know that last year at junior night was one of those nights where we really kick off the post-secondary process, and it's a stressful start, but it kind of can be a little fun where you get to go visit colleges or have sort of big picture conversations, and now you're sort of at the point where you're starting to really have some more serious conversations. Hopefully those serious conversations are one where they're starting to think about what they want to do, but they may be serious conversations where you're trying to tell them they need to start thinking about what they want to do. And what I can assure you is that we've got a wonderful team who's going to present tonight with a lot of experience. We are one of the few schools in this area in the country that have so many college and career counselors, which are great support and meet with every single student. And our school counselors are meeting with your students in our senior seminars right now. And what I always say to families, particularly when they are struggling, particularly in 9th grade, I'll say to a family, students figure it out. All students figure it out. And literally last year, we had a student who really hadn't been figuring it out, and second to last day of school said, Mr. Turner, I think I know what I want to do, and I'm going to get all my work done, and I'm going to graduate. And he did. So, so they do figure it out. And so tonight's really to help you get started to think about how to support your student. I think the best advice that this team will share with you is to really organize your conversations. Don't just have random conversations about where are you in your essay or whatnot, but really have a planned meeting. On Thursdays at 7 p.m. we are going to talk about next year. So to sort of reduce the stress a little bit and have an organized conversation with them has really been the best advice that I have heard over the years. Okay, I'm going to tell you a couple of things and introduce some folks to you. And some of the things I want to share is that I really think we're off to a really strong start this year as a school. As you all know, this has been a challenging couple of years in education, and I think we really ended the year well last year. It was a stressful year for students and our educators, but we really started the year with a lot of energy this year, a lot of positivity. Our teachers are really making sense more than last year of our new schedule, of wind block, of all of the many things that have changed over the last couple of years, and that has really been exciting. Today was our first professional development day as a faculty meeting, and just the number of different creative ways that teachers are thinking about how to make their classroom better for students is really heartening, and really when we know we're at our best. I think last year was really stressful, and we're not really great innovators when we're stressed. This year, we can really see the wheels turning, and that's really exciting because that's the faculty that we know, and really exciting to see them. Secondly is that we really have gotten into gear in some things that I think are really important for you to know. One of them is our SEALS program. Our SEALS program is an opportunity for students to express their passion at Newton North. We have grown it over the last 3 years. We are one of the few schools in the country that place a seal on a student's transcript if they are able to pass our rigorous process for receiving one. We have seals in the seal of biliteracy, which is students who speak more than one language. We have a seal for social justice. That's students who demonstrate a passion and have created some sort of change, whether locally in their school, in their larger community, or outside of community. We have one for civic action, which is around community service. And new this year, we have seals in fine and performing arts. We have specific ones for theater, art, music, and then general performing arts. And so if you feel like your student falls into one of those categories, I would really encourage you to think about applying. Kate Kennedy is the person to reach out to for those seals, for the seal applications. And we know that students want to get them on their transcript, many of them who are applying for November 1st. You know, there is some urgency to reach out and to think about it. If your student hasn't really thought about any of those topics yet, but they're interested in, say, civic action, doing some community service, there's definitely there is time for them to do some sort of service project and to receive a seal. We have found in speaking with colleges that they really do support this idea. We're really trying to rethink the high school transcript so that it really helps students to show how they differentiate themselves in very positive ways for colleges. And so we've received a lot of great feedback for this. The second one is a little more challenging to share with you, which is, I know that, as you probably know if you've been here for a while, one of the rules we are very firm on is add drops. And we do have students who may be looking to change levels in the next couple of weeks. We are really at capacity as a school right now. So that's something just to share with you. We are over 40 students over the projection that we thought we were going to be. So we are glad that the word is out that Newton North is the place to be. And we are really full. Our classes are really full. Our class sizes are really full. So we are able to meet needs right now, but we are really at a really tough time. So if you are worried about the workload being too high, it's really important to speak with your school counselor, speak with the teacher, and we will try to do our best to make any adjustments in those areas. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Lastly is, I will introduce in a little bit our PTSO, but I just want to give a shout out for their dues drive. I just sent an email out about that. So please think about that. And their porchside dining, which will be, they'll send more information about that, which is the only event that my wife attends at Newton North. And she is a far cooler person than I am. And so maybe you'll get the chance to meet her there. Those are all my announcements. So without further ado, here's your House Dean, Scott Heslin.
Good evening, everybody. It's hard to think that the last time we were here was probably 3 years ago this time, this week or this month. And obviously time has flown by. Nothing crazy has happened in the world, so at least we can all take that into account together. It's really good to see everybody back here in person. We had our class assembly about 2 weeks ago, and I sent home the slideshow for that and just expressed some of the same things to all the kids. It's just really good to have everybody back here. It feels like a normal year to me. I think the students are feeling like that. They're behaving like that. More of a normalcy as far as going to classes and being able to socialize in the halls and not worrying about how far apart we are and things like that. So it's just really nice to be back in that kind of space with the kids. I look at this year as kind of a year where kids are, like Dr. Turner said, kind of fine-tuning as far as what they want to do after high school, preparing for life beyond. Working hard, obviously, to make sure they reach those goals, and then obviously celebrate. It's been a long 3 years. There's a lot of celebrations planned for later in the year, but obviously the kids know that we have a lot of hard work to do for the first half of the year, first 3 quarters of the year before we can start having some of our senior events and fun stuff like that. Overall, it's a great class. I really enjoyed getting to know a lot of your kids. I think last check, Beth, what did we say, just about 500 in this class?
Oh, yeah.
What's that? 5'10"? So, which sounds like a lot, but it's actually, I think, the smallest class we have. And it's about 30 or 40 smaller than the last class I had, so I've taken the advantage of getting to know more of the kids, and it's just been great so far. The senior class, I really look to them and challenge them in our class assembly to be role models for the rest of the kids in school. You know, keeping in mind how many kids weren't in the building for a couple of years because of COVID, and obviously some of the growing up and maturation process was halted. So the seniors have done a great job being those leaders in the hallways, kind of setting the example and working with the younger kids to help them make sure they're doing the right thing. And obviously I let them know all the time I appreciate it, so please share that with your kids when you talk to them again. Obviously there's some stress involved with senior year, but I really do believe the kids have already shown to be resilient, they know how to work hard, and they're all preparing for what they want to do. And obviously that's what tonight's more about, the support that they have here, and all the just different ways that they can get help if they need to. But again, it's mostly coming from them, and they've really done a great job preparing. So there are two things that I want to just talk about, make announcements for. It's stuff that you've already seen or already gotten emails about, but I figured I'd take the opportunity tonight to talk about them again. One is our new attendance policy. It's I got a lot of questions from a lot of kids about this, and I promise like 97% of the kids don't even need to worry about this. And I only say that because as long as they're going to class, there's nothing to worry about. And I say that 97% of our seniors have shown over the past 3 years that they take care of business. All right, but the standard is in place this year. Oh, sorry, I forgot about this slide. Fields House, senior house, obviously I'm Scott. Cheryl Stover, who answers the phone. This is kind of what we do.
Yeah.
Now you know what you're doing.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, so house office, please let us know by 11 a.m., whether it's a phone call or an email, or if your child comes with a note, just make sure it gets there by 11 a.m. so we can keep the attendance accurate. Students, you can see on the bottom, a lot of them are 18 already. Many will be 18 before the school year's out. Same attendance policies for 18-year-olds. They have to let us know by 11 a.m. if they're missing school that day, or if they're late, or if they're tardy. And then the point that's in the middle, the single block absences, that's really a deterrent for kids to say, I don't really feel like going to D block today, so I'm going to call myself out of one block. We don't allow that. If kids do have to miss one block, obviously for a doctor's appointment or a dentist something, they just need to bring a note. It's okay, obviously. But without an excuse, that's something that kids cannot do. As far as the attendance standard, each quarter is the reset. So if students have 5 or less total absences, or 2 or less unexcused absences in a quarter, again, there's nothing to worry about. On the report card, they'll show up as a Y for the attendance grade, which is in addition to the academic grade. If students do have more than 6 or more absences, or they cut a class 3 times, then on the report card, it will come up as an N, meaning they are not meeting the attendance standard. The question that I'm getting from most kids is what counts and what doesn't count. Anything that's school-sponsored does not count towards the standard. They're still going to be marked absent because we have to keep a record that shows whether or not they were in class, but our computer system, Aspen, designates things for athletics, or the FPA department, or an IEP meeting, or a 504, field trip, anything like that. If it's school-sponsored, it does not count towards the standard. Outside of school, if somebody's observing a religious holiday, that won't count towards the standard. Obviously, that's something just to work with us on, and I don't think I put it up here, but at the end of a quarter, we have about 10 days from the end of the quarter until grades are published. During that time frame, deans, well, you only care about 12th graders, obviously, but I will be looking at the attendance grades and double checking and seeing anybody who has not met the standard, and then looking into why. And if there's obviously good reasons that maybe a kid has 6 and say they were out because they had a medical issue for 8 days or something, I can override that if I need to. Right? So again, this is why I'm trying to say to the kids, don't stress about whether or not you're going to meet the standard, just go to class. And then if you can't go to class for a reason, we'll talk about it and we'll figure out what makes sense. Other subject, parking. I want to say we have about 160 seniors that have a Tiger permit. Tiger permits allow them to park on Hull Street and a couple designated areas on Lowell or the Austin Street lot. Outside of those places, if you don't have a Tiger permit, you can't park in those areas, and nobody can ever park on campus. The kids have had many warnings. They got their first class warning in the class assembly, and then a few others have gotten warnings where I've gone to their classrooms and said, you're parked illegally right now, I'll give you 5 minutes or the tow trucks are coming. So if your child has a Tiger permit, please remind them just to use it appropriately so there's no issues with that. So again, those are the couple things I wanted to get out to you. You guys all have my email. It's on the agenda for tonight too. It's on the website. If you have any questions about anything pertaining to senior year that's not answered tonight, feel free to reach out to me, and I'll pass it over to our awesome counselors. Oh, not yet, sorry, our PTSO. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. We're just... Scott is very meticulous, and so he will go through those grades, but I do encourage you to reach out to him if there's an issue you want to speak with them. This may be, for many of you who have not met with your dean, this may be the year that you do, and one of them is because social challenges come up a lot more senior year than they may have before in decision-making around drinking, drug use, sex, or other types of issues. And please know that our counselors and our dean are here to support you and walk you through and get the resources that you need. We recently heard that there was a big party in Newton a couple weekends ago. And so these are the things, if your kid says, yes, we should have a party at our house, you can certainly call us and we will help you deter you to not have that party at your house. But please, honestly, reach out to the dean if you have any questions or need any support. I do want to just give another shout out for our PTSO as they walk on stage, is that they have really good programming coming up this year. One is on decision making. We're going to have a panel of students who are going to talk about what it is like to be a Newton North student and what are some of the peer pressures that they face, and some of our experts, counselors, talking about some of the supports that we offer. Others are more about cell phone use, technology, and then how to get involved in the tech world for work and employment. So those are some really exciting programs that we have offering, and so I want to, without further ado, introduce Jacqueline and Patty.
All right, hello. We wanted to mostly introduce ourselves because by now you guys know what we do. I'm Jacqueline Freeman, and I actually am the co-president with Patty, and I'm new this year. I have an incoming freshman, so.
And I'm Patty Egan. I have a junior, and I'm in my second year of the 2-year term of PTO co-president.
So at this time of year, what we really like to do is let you know of all the exciting things that we're going to do all year long. And you can see them here. You can go to our website. What we want to also ask you to do is help us fund them. We're running our dues drive now. I'm going to go through some of these faster. This is how you can reach us. We are running our dues drive. It has new this year a raffle attached to it. So if you pay by the 23rd, which is right after back to school night, you will be entered automatically into the raffle. You can pay any amount. Just your participation is valued, so I would encourage you to do that. And then it helps us plan our whole year, where we have all these exciting things happening. We will also ask for some more fundraising throughout the year. You can see in November we'll announce our edX program, and we fundraise at the end of the, or the beginning of the year, I guess, of 2023 for celebration.
And thank you to everybody who has already contributed to the news drive. We really appreciate it. And like Jacqueline said, we just really want everybody to participate. Any amount is welcome, and we appreciate it. As you can see, the dues drive raises about 80% of the PTSO's operating revenue. These pie charts are on the website if you want to take a look. And this is how we spend our funds. You can see celebration, the edX campaign, we do staff appreciation events, we have the grants program, and again,
we'd also encourage you to, this is your last chance to volunteer. And we will take any amount of volunteering. If you have an hour and want to help, set up an event, or if you want to join a committee and help put the whole thing on, we will take it. You can email us and we will find something for you to do.
And here's a couple of things Principal Turner mentioned. We're going to have Northside Porchside, save the date, Saturday, October 22nd. And this year the pre-party is back, and we have a generous host house to all meet at, and then we'll split up to our parties. Multicultural nights coming up on the 15th of November, and if you're interested in participating, there's information out on Tiger News about who to contact.
We're going to skip right through these. We're going fast tonight. But the one thing Dr. Turner was just mentioning is our programs are really phenomenal this year. We were just at a meeting where we went through them all. There's a lot. We're going to have a handout. They'll be linked in the next issue of Tiger News. You can read all about them. We'd encourage you to attend them. There are all sorts of things from, gap year to tough topics, talking about those with your students. So we have a lot to offer, and we would love for you to participate in them.
And Tiger News comes out every Tuesday at noon. We hear some people are thinking they're not getting it. Check your junk mail, but just know noon at Tuesday. And you can always get in touch with us. Email address, check out the web. Thanks again, and we hope to see you guys at any and all events. And looking forward to the celebration. We're going to need a lot of parents and guardians to help out that night.
So I was surprised to hear that only about 400 to 500 families contributing to dues is considered excellent here, and that felt kind of smallish to me. So I do want to really echo whatever number doesn't matter, but I think contribution to PTSO, they do so much, particularly last year for students and families and staff. So something to really think about. All right, the rest of our night is about transition. And so Beth Swiderskis, our department chair for counseling, will walk you through her presentation, and our counselors will be here to answer questions for you.
Thank you, Henry. Okay. I don't have any slides right now, so we're going to do a little chatting. So welcome. Congratulations. You've gotten your child to their final year of high school. And yay, give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. Absolutely. It takes a village, doesn't it? Okay. So, we are here tonight to give you important information about supporting your children for the next part of their life beyond Newton North High School. And we want to say that we're really excited, and we want to celebrate all their individual paths, and you're going to hear a lot of information from the various counselors about the types of things that they can be in store, and have some tips for them as they progress through this year. But the tips aren't only for them, they're for you too. We just want to make sure that we're all in this together. The majority of what you'll hear tonight is about the college process, and we know that we celebrate so many students who take a different path, and whether it's the military or gap year or the workforce. But while so many of our students do go off to some post-secondary education, that's why a focus that you'll hear tonight is going to be about that college process and what it looks like from an admissions standpoint. So as you know, and if it is, as Henry asked before, how many is the first time or the third or whatever, this is an incredibly important year to launch your child into the next phase of life. And you're going to see some mood changes, and you're going to hear more about, what their behavior might be later on in the presentation. But just always know that they need you to be there for them. And the analogy is that they need to lead this process, so they need to be in the driver's seat. But what you can do is be part of their pit crew. You can make sure there's oil in the tank, gas in the tank, and air in their tires. And so you're gonna it's like being a coach. And so you really want to kind of be on the sidelines, but just be careful making sure that it's about them and their process, and you'll hear more about that, some words of wisdom later on. As Mr. Turner said, is that although you may be going with this process for the first time, we've been doing it for many years, and even though at times we've had different people go through our rules, please know that we are here for you and your children as much as possible. There has been experiences and there's some wisdom, and we do everything we can to keep up with the most recent trends of what's going on when it comes to admissions and the job market and all of that. So no question is also not worth asking. And one of the things I also want to say is many times we'll have some students come to us and say, well, they said, we're like, who's they? And they're like, well, I don't really know. Or I heard. And so we just want to there's a lot of urban myths out there, and we just want to make sure that as our students are focusing on what they need to do and what they need to accomplish, we want to make sure that it is factual. And so if you're also hearing from they, don't hesitate to reach out to a counselor and find out if that is really the truth, because we want you to really not be led astray by they. The other thing that you're going to hear about a bit is the various types of support that we provide each and every student, and some is electronic, and some is in human form. And what we want to make sure is that the online process that we use is Naviance, and some of you may be brand new to this platform, some may have been through it before, and that's where we use that as our college and career management system. And all of your seniors have access to Naviance. Parents and guardians do not get their own accounts. So if you want to find out what's going on in their Naviance account, you're going to ask your senior. And it's great to start to have those conversations. And then you're going to hear more about the role of the school counselor in this process, and also with college and career counselors. And one thing I do want to acknowledge that I know that some seniors have had a shift in their school counselor. Whether there's a school counselor who may have left the district, they also may be on leave. So I just want you to know that we are a team. And it is not the first time that a counselor has been changed in their senior year. I remember when I first came on, I didn't meet one of my seniors, and there I was, supporting them and writing for them and that kind of thing. So we have a lot of information that can be shared from the junior questionnaire, the parent and guardian future planning questionnaire, and just the one-to-one meetings that our counselors, and usually our counselors are quite good at making connections and finding out what really to highlight for our students. So rest assured, all the way through, any questions, any support that we're going to give, we're going to do it the best way possible. So, without further ado, I'm going to present the counselors. So they're each going to come up. They're going to introduce themselves. Don't be shy. They're going to introduce themselves. Some, not all are here. Some maybe just out had another conflict. And then what's going to happen, they'll introduce you. You can see who they are if you've not met any of them. And then the ones who are going to present are going to stay, and then everyone's going to stay for a little Q&A at the end. And I want to point out that the Q&A would be great from general questions. If you have anything specific about your senior, please wait for an individual conversation or outreach, and you can talk to your counselor then. Does anybody have a mic down there? All right.
Here you go. Hello. Hello, everybody. My name is Jillian Hall, and I'm one of the college and career counselors here at North. Hi, everyone. Melissa Hannenberger, another college and career counselor. Hello, everyone. I'm Jen Garrity, also a college and career counselor. Hi, everyone. I'm Jess Fulmer, and I am a school counselor.
That was Jess Fulmer, not Jeff Fulmer. And I am Matthew Ford, one of the school counselors. Hello, everybody. Brendan Emilio, school counselor.
So glad to see you all. I'm Michelle Kennedy, school counselor.
Good evening, everyone. Malika Pearson, school counselor.
Hi, welcome. I'm Kira Sosky, another school counselor. I'm Christine Potter, school counselor. Jolene Filio, surprise, surprise, school counselor.
Thelma Johnson, school counselor.
Hi everyone, Pat Manning, and we'll all sit down now.
microphone first because I get to kick it off. My little topic to kick it off is to kind of put the events of this year into a little bit of a context and talk about what might go on for your seniors, what might go on for you, not condescend to you and tell you how to parent, but just use some collective wisdom that hopefully you can call upon if you need it. So this year is, it is an exciting year. It's exciting to get to the point where the current environment may just, the kids have outgrown it. They're ready for more. This is what we hope for. It's what we've been working for. But excitement and stress and anxiety are remarkably similar. Unfortunately, physiologically, they feel exactly the same, and sometimes it's hard to even know which one is going on. But I'm also going to look down because I wrote notes for myself. We handle these developmental milestones differently. We handle excitement differently and stress and anxiety differently. So one of the things that I try to put out there to students and families is that the unknown, which is kind of what we're working towards with our seniors, is inherently stressful. So to try to sort of deny that and avoid that is trying to outrun something that's going to eventually catch up. So I encourage students to just be open and honest about that and use different coping skills, different management skills, different loving, trusted members in their life to address the stress, to manage it, maybe step away from the process if there's time, but not to pretend that it's not there, because that in and of itself is kind of stressful. I called it a developmental milestone, and I just want to remind parents that you've been through several of them with your kids already. And so sometimes it's nice to think back, like, well, I've never been through anything like this before. No, not this one. But, if you think back to other times where they had to develop their own muscles and their own skills and be ready to do something that was scary, like learning how to walk, like even scarier, learning how to drive. These things where you wanted to hit the proverbial passenger side brake or grab the passenger side wheel, which isn't there. This is another, it's another task that, like Beth said, they need you. It's also like that rapprochement phase way back when they were 2 or 3, where it's like, I got this. Wait, you're not too far away from me, right? It's very much like that. So when parents ask, like, what's my role? It's going to be different. You all have different family cultures, different communication styles, but it's like, if there's a question out there, put it out there. Sometimes there could be a lot of assumptions made on kids' parts. Oh, I know exactly how my parents are, what they're thinking, what they're going to do. Parents do the same thing about their kids. Oh, I know my child. I know exactly what they're going to do or what they're going to say. Sometimes we're right. Sometimes we're not. So I just would encourage families, and I say the same thing. I think we all say the same thing to our students. Just don't make assumptions. If you're wondering something, put it out there. You have every right to ask how the progress is going. And this is something that we also tell the kids. This is your senior year. It is your point of transition, but everybody in the household that you call home is experiencing this in some way. Whether it's, this is our oldest child, how did we get to this point in our lives where we're old enough to have a college-age child? Or if it's a single-child household, oh my God, what are we gonna do next year? Or what am I going to do next year without this project that I have that I love and care for? Younger siblings could be heartbroken that the family's going to change, and they could be, yes, I finally get that room. So there's a lot of appropriate selfishness that I encourage students to have, and also a little get over yourself because you're not the only one going through this. So it's quite a tightrope. We are here. We are working with you. We are here to support you. We're here to support the kids. And anytime you might have a question about, is this typical? Is this, I'll just ask it. Don't ever, even if this is the first time you've ever reached out. This might be the first real task that your kids have needed us for because they've managed so well. That's not weird. That's not awkward for us. So don't be strangers. Use us. And conflict is not inevitable, but it's not surprising, because we're dealing with, being evaluated, and did I make the right choices? Am I gonna get what I want? You are all consumers as well. You're looking for a product. So while it's easy to lose sight of that, it's also nice to be reminded that you're empowered. And you and your kids are never trapped based on where you start next year. Doors usually open up. They usually don't close. Once a student leaves here and they have a good experience, more options will follow them. So that's my 2 cents. I hope it helps.
So as the 10 of us up here all introduced ourselves as school counselors, you might have sat there wondering, so what is the role of the school counselor? So that is what I'm going to share with you over the next 5 minutes or so. So the school counselor, over the past few years, many students have just seen us as, I'm going to go to that person to talk about something that's going on in school, to fix a schedule. Now it becomes, I think, we become a lot more useful to students. So we can be used for the college process, we can be used for applying to gap year programs, going to the military, applying to jobs. So we really try to encompass all of that over the course of this year. So when it comes to the college process, the role of school counselor is to help keep the student organized when it comes to deadlines, as we have major deadlines in November, December, January, February. Making sure that students are on top of submitting documents that have to go to these colleges, universities, reading through college essays, reading through the application themselves to make sure that there's every T is dotted and or T is crossed and I is dotted. I'm way better at reading applications than I am at public speaking. So we'll do things like that. When it comes to job interviews, actually some colleges do interviews as well, so we'll do some mock interviews within our offices. So that's what we're here for. We'll run through the questions when it comes to professional demeanor, all stuff like that. We're used to doing that within the confines of our office. We talk often about, in the college and career counselors often talk about this too when your students meet in the college and career center, is having a well-balanced list. So we're looking at all the colleges that student may be applying to and making sure that there's a good balance between however many someone might be applying to. So making sure that there are some statistical reaches, some target schools, some likely schools, so that everyone's being set up for the most successful transition experience that they can be. Matthew just shared this, when it comes to the number of questions and concerns and comments that you might have during this whole process, we field those. So if you want to have an email conversation with us, great. Phone conversation with us, fantastic. Zoom, if you so choose. I'm saying come into my office and meet in person in my office. So I know we're all open to that. So utilize us how you see fit. It's a team approach, and we want to get to that finish line all together. So make use of us over this process. Thank you.
Now I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the role of the College and Career Counselor and the College and Career Center. And also at the end, I want to provide you a little reassurance about this whole college process. So the role of the College and Career Counselor is to meet with students one-on-one to discuss post-secondary planning. So for many of our students, that is college. And we've already begun working with many students in the class of 2023. In the spring, we started meeting with students, and we met with over 250 students already in the class. Your students are wonderful, and we've loved getting to know them, and we're going to continue working with them this fall. The senior meetings that we're having now really surround making sure the college list is balanced, making sure that students feel like they have a good grasp on their timeline when they're going to be applying to school. We're here to discuss really anything related to the college process. We're even here just as a listening ear and a sounding board. You know, those questions and concerns, I'm not going to get in anywhere. Hear that a lot. So we are here to hopefully ease anxieties as well. Students can meet with a college and career counselor during their free block or during Tiger block. They cannot miss class to meet with us. And there are 3 college and career counselors, and we all work different part-time schedules. And so students can meet with any of us, and it's really just based on availability. So our calendars are electronic, and students can sign up for an appointment. The appointment calendars are posted in Naviance, and they also are posted on our information for the class of 2023 Google Doc, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a second, but they are very available to students. We also have QR codes available in the College and Career Center, so if students just want to swing by, that's also an easy way to schedule an appointment. And after our meetings with students, we do collaborate closely with the school counselors. We provide notes, we often call and discuss students. So it is, again, a really supportive environment. So students meet with us and they don't feel like they have to totally restart the process, and same if they meet with their school counselor, the school counselor knows about the meeting and sort of what was discussed. 2 other things that happen within the College and Career Center that I do want to mention is this Class of 2023 Google Doc that I mentioned. This has been shared out in many different capacities. It is also linked on the homepage of Naviance. But basically what it is it's a dumping ground for anything related to post-secondary planning that we receive. We have a section in there that is Newton North resources, so anything related to how do your documents get sent to colleges, links to different nights we had in the spring, for instance. We have a whole section about financial aid, common application tips. We even, post scholarship information. So please check out that info doc. If you're looking for just some logistical guidance, it's a great place to start. The other College and Career Center thing that I want to highlight is the college visitors. So we do host college visitors. We host them during WIN blocks. So students will see the sign up for that in their MyFlex Learning for the week, and students will come to WIN block. We'll have a representative from a college, which will be posted which school it is, and they'll be able to spend their WIN block with that college representative. The other amazing access to college reps that you will all have is during our college nights, which we are so excited to have back for the first time since 2019. Those are on October 11th and October 12th. We're going to have 75 colleges here each night. They are unique colleges, so a total of 150-ish schools will be here, and that will take place in the cafeteria. So please make sure you mark your calendar for that. It'll be a great event. And Wednesday, October 12th, directly following that college night, we will have financial aid night in here. And so that'll be a great intro to the financial aid process. So the fall will be busy. So the last thing I just want to do is just provide you some reassurance. I know going through the college admissions process during/after a pandemic is anxiety provoking for many of you, especially if you went through this with previous children pre-pandemic. And so I do just think this data might be helpful for you. I think one thing that's coming up in a lot of meetings is this test optional thing. Like, the college is really test optional. Is it going to hurt me if I don't submit scores? So hopefully this data will sort of speak for itself. So this is Newton North specific data for the class of 2022. 80% of the class took the SAT or ACT. Of that 80%, 28% submitted their test scores to all of their colleges. 26% submitted to some of their colleges. And 46% submitted their test scores to no colleges. And for the entire class of 2022, almost 79% reported that they were accepted in choosing to enroll at one of their top 3 schools. So I think really what that shows is that colleges are using a holistic admissions review. They are looking at everything that a student submits. They're looking at transcript, activities, essays, supplements, and this test optional thing really is true. It is test optional and it is not hindering students in any way. They are ending up at a school that they want to be at. And so I hope that data really supports that, and I hope it is reassuring to you all. Your students are amazing. They are multifaceted. It is so much more than just that test score. I think that's it for me, so I will hand it over to this person. Oh, sorry. It is me. I will hand it over to Mr. Mrs. Widders.
No worries. So hi, I'm back. Okay. So, speaking of kind of a different kind of admission landscape that we have been experiencing, I just want to make sure that I provide a very brief explanation of our Newton North GPA and how we report it or report them. As you hopefully know, or may remember, or maybe now we've blocked it out, we've had 3 different grading systems in the past 3 years. So that being said, it's a mathematical nightmare to then get all 3 grading systems into one cumulative GPA. So what we've done for the past 2 years, and it has been successful, each of our seniors are going to receive actually 2 GPAs, one from 10th grade, okay, and one from 11th grade. Because also Newton North, for 30+ million years, did not include 9th grade grades into a Newton North GPA. And it's hilarious because so many kids are like, oh, well, that year didn't matter. But the fact of the matter is colleges, employers, they look at every year. So they are going to include 9th grade final grades, 10th grade, 11th grade, and automatically term 1 and 2, term 2 grades are sent to every college that a student applies to. And well over the majority of college and universities will recalculate a student's GPA on their own system. And we tell our seniors that because every high school can do it differently. So how a college is gonna, make any sense of thousands of GPA ways that they calculate it, they know what's right for them on their system. We also report an unweighted GPA out of a 4.0. And people are asking, well, if my child has been taking some honors, lucky enough to be successful in AP classes, how is that going to make a difference? The fact of the matter is, on the transcript, those course titles are there with the curriculum level very clearly. So colleges and universities know the rigor in which our children, our seniors, and how they have done in those classes. So they take that all into consideration. But what we're going to report from Newton North on their transcript very clearly is a 20-21 GPA, a 21-22 GPA, and that's basically what they're applying with between now and January. Come January, after the first semester, we update that GPA based on 22-23 because they're done halfway with their classes. And that is going to be the midterm report that we also will be sending with those second term grades. So I just wanted to put that out there to see if this is how this GPA is going to work. It's worked quite well the past couple of years. We give that message to our seniors as well, but if you have any questions specifically at another time, don't hesitate to reach out and ask. And then I'm going to hand this off to Ms. Johnson. No? All right.
Hello. Okay, so what I will be talking about is basically what seniors should be doing now. They should review their transcript, and to check their progress to graduation for credits and distribution requirements. During seminars last week, we actually had them go on to Aspen and pull up their transcript to make sure that everything looks correct, nothing's missing, that they do have all the credits necessary to graduate, which the total to graduate is 243 credits since we've changed over to the credit system. And if you want more information on the distribution, it's actually on page 5 and 6 of the catalog, the course catalog. And then seniors should also be checking the accuracy of their transcripts before releasing the transcripts, such as missing grades, missing courses, that kind of thing. Last week during seminars, we walked through the steps on how to find their transcript, and then also if they do need to request a transcript change, there is a form and a link that we have provided. And most of us will put that on Schoology. A lot of the links, I know the students were asking, where could they find that? Often, we all have Schoology groups for the most part. We put that on there. Seniors should be setting up also follow-up appointments and first appointments with the College and Career Center. So we walk them through the steps of that and how to find their calendars, that kind of thing. During seminars last week, we did kind of go through how you would schedule if they hadn't yet. And then finally, seniors should be and will be making appointments with us, their school counselor, at the end of this week. This is session 2 of the seminars this week. And now?
Okay, hi everybody. So I'm going to talk a little bit about senior seminars. And usually right about now, which is when we're kind of about the halfway point of the presentation, is when we check in with seniors and say, okay, who is completely overwhelmed and or exhausted? Because we talk about this stuff all the time. We live and breathe this information. And we recognize that this is the first time for many people that they're hearing this information. So what we always like to reiterate is we are here to share as much information as possible so that when students and families are ready to go, they have the information at their fingertips. And we recognize that this is information overload. So we never anticipate that students are going to take it all in and then be ready to go. We say, you know what, we're going to give you the information. If you need to hear it time and again, we are here for you. So we encourage your children, your students, and you, use us as resources. We recognize that this is a very daunting process and that there are lots of moving parts. So our goal is to provide information during seminars and tonight, and then continue to reiterate, provide information as often as you need it. So use us, reach out through email, call us, if Zoom works, if in-person works, but we recognize that there's a ton of information, and so we just wanted to acknowledge that, we do the same thing with your students during seminars. So speaking of seminars, we started last week during WIN blocks. All of the seniors were met by 2 counselors, and we went over the first part of our senior seminars. And then beginning tomorrow during WIN blocks, and Thursday and Friday, your students will meet with their specific counselors. Last week that may not have been the case. It wasn't the case for many students. But for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, your children will be meeting with their specific counselors. So in a nutshell, here is the kind of the rundown of what we've been covering during seminars. So during the first seminar, we started with a philosophical conversation because we recognize that there are lots of different goals for different students, and so we acknowledge that we've had students who, starting freshman year, were saying, I want to meet and talk about college. And then we have students who right now are like, I don't want to talk about life after Newton North. And so I always like to think of it as it's a spectrum. And so students are at all different places, and we acknowledge that we're going to meet students wherever they're at. So we had a conversation about that. Then we got into that fun conversation about GPA. We then moved into the SAT, ACT, standardized scores, standardized tests, and had a conversation about, as Ms. Hall was saying, that they're still offered, that many schools pre-pandemic and certainly now post-pandemic are test optional. We reiterated that if a student is eligible for a fee waiver, we never want them to be thinking they have to incur that fee. So whether it be for standardized tests or for college application fees, which can be anywhere from upwards of $80 per college. If you are in a position, or your child, your family's in a position, and we have many people who are eligible for fee waivers, please reach out to encourage your child to reach out to their counselor so that you can take advantage of the fee waivers. Then we talked about the different college admissions options. We talked about early decision, early action, rolling decision, and regular decision. And we've gotten to a pretty lengthy conversation about that. So if you are sitting there thinking, I'm not exactly sure, because things have changed a lot over the past several years, certainly add this to the list of things you want to chat with your child and or his or her counselor, their counselor about. And then we talked about how fortunate we are to have the College and Career Center and the 3 college career counselors who we have. We encourage students, if they hadn't yet this year, to make an appointment, and that even if your child met with somebody last spring, they don't need to meet with the same person. We do, again, we work as a team. We're very collaborative, and so it really is about availability. We had some students who were like, I don't have any frees first term, and that happens, so we encourage them to reach out to the College and Career Center, our 3 counselors, are phenomenal and are willing to work with students to meet them where they're at. So if a student doesn't have a free, that doesn't mean they're not eligible to meet with a college career counselor. So that was seminar 1. Whew. Okay, so seminar 2, we're about to kick them off. We're going to talk about Common Application. We're going to get them back on through their Chromebooks or computers onto the Common Application and make sure that they are good to go with that. We're going to talk about Naviance and how Naviance matches with the Common Application. That's essential in order for next steps to happen. They need to match their Common Application with Naviance. We're going to walk them through that process and make sure that everybody is good to go. We're going to talk about teacher recommendations. Students requested teachers to write recommendations for them last spring. All of the counselors have the list of students and the teachers they've asked for recommendations. We are going to reiterate very strongly that if your child, and to them, if they have an early deadline, they want to reach out to that teacher immediately and put that on their radar so that many teachers wrote recommendations over the summer, some wait until the fall. So our general rule of thumb is that if you have an early application deadline, please make sure you let that teacher know sooner rather than later. We're going to walk them through, again, how to request a transcript. We have an online form that is pretty seamless. We're going to explain how you do that. We're going to walk through who sends what a student is responsible for, what the school counselor is responsible for, answer any questions about that. And then we're going to have our fun conversation that we've had every year with your children about internet safety and being mindful about what is out there on the internet. Every year I'm floored by the fact that we sit and talk about this, and then inevitably students like, I didn't think that anybody would ever see that. I thought I just sent it to a small group of people. So we have those conversations. We cross our T's, we dot our I's. I know that's been a lot of information, but please use us. We are here as a liaison. We're here to support you. No question is too small. You can ask as many things. So we just want you to know that we're in this together, and we look forward to walking your children through the next steps, no matter where they are. And I think I'm passing on to Mr. Emilio. Mr. Emilio.
So popular. All right, so I'm going to now talk about what Newton North submits for documents. And Ms. Lasky just shared transcript requests, and Ms. Johnson talked about the transcript and reviewing it for accuracy. So after students and families review the transcript for accuracy, it's then the time to request the transcript to be sent out to the colleges, universities, potentially gap year programs, future employers, sometimes the military. So pretty much this submission of documents is going to be a one-stop shop of how you do it. So our great registrar, Tricia Samper, she's not here right now, but she deserves a round of applause for creating what I believe a very seamless way to request transcripts than ever before. So it's a Google form, and when you open the Google form, you'll put your name. It'll have to be done through an MPS email. So using your student's LACID email, that's what you'll want to be using for it. And putting the name, the deadlines for the colleges, universities, jobs, etc. And then if the student's 18, they're able to release the records on their own. They're able to hit a little box. But a lot of students aren't 18 yet, so that's where it comes in with parents and guardians. It's clicking a little box and saying, I release, or I give Newton North the permission to release the records off to wherever the student wants them sent off to. In addition to the transcript being sent off, it will prompt recommendation letters from teachers. It'll prompt a counselor statement that all the school counselors will write over the course of this year. It will be the school profile that will describe the kind of wacky little 3 grading systems that have been the experience of the students here since 9th grade. It'll explain the kind of the culture of Newton North, the curriculums, the difference between AP versus ACP versus CP. It'll explain what a comprehensive technical high school is. So it will really give the the colleges, university, future employers, gap year programs, etc., all the information that they need to know as they make the determination for their decision. When it comes to the fee waiver, so it does cost money to request a transcript. The Google form, which is so great that Ms. Stamper has created, it will invoice families through My School Bucks on the back end. So after you submit your Google request and you have your Google form request for just say 10 colleges and universities, it's $3 per college and university. And then on the back end through My School Bucks, which many of you have used for lunches or other fees throughout the past 12 years perhaps, you'll get an invoice for that. For those who qualify for a fee waiver, really no questions asked, just student talk to one of the school counselors, parents let us know, and we'll make sure that's taken care of, because we don't want money to ever be a burden when it comes to submitting these documents off to the colleges and universities. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Let's Pat.
Good, I was passing that baton. Very good job. No one dropped it. A+. All right, so that's what we send. We send out the transcripts. The other part of that is what you as a senior need to send, so what your students are expected to send. The biggest one, obviously, is the application. So please send that if you're applying to the school. It's important. This could be Common App. This could be Coalition App. It may be that each school has their own institutional application. But this includes essays, the embedded essay, and any supplements that the school might have, supplemental rating projects that might be on there. So make sure you're going through those applications, checking that you've answered all the questions before you submit, putting all the writing, doing all the things that need to be done just before you hit submit on that. And so with that comes the application fee. That is what they will charge you, $50, $75, $100, whatever they're charging right now. You will have to pay that as well per school in order to submit that application. We've said it a lot tonight. We really want to hit on this. If this is a financial hardship, please talk to your school counselor. We can help with waivers to assist with that as needed. SAT, ACT. If you are one of the students who is submitting their SAT or ACT score, you do need to submit an official score report from whichever test you are submitting. So you need to go online, do your profile, and put in the schools that you want to receive that. Entering into the application does not count as being sent. We do not report anywhere, SAT, ACT. That needs to come from you and from your actual account. So that's something you want to get on to as well. And then the other thing, if you are applying for maybe a music program or an art program or some program that has either an audition or some sort of portfolio that needs to be included, you'll need to include that as well. And in many cases, that is done through a separate website. So you'll want to make sure that you kind of get familiar with that website and set that up as needed. If you're taking work in, the art teacher is really helpful with that. We've worked with kids on this. We can help them get that set up. Audition may be in person, they may want a video, they may be one than the other. So I think the bottom line on all this is, as you're going through this application process, get on the school website, get on their application, and make sure you know what you need to submit. So that when you are submitting that application, it is a complete application and is not missing any pieces that you just didn't notice. Because that's a bummer if you do all that work and I'm like, oh, there was one last piece and now you're not going to get considered. So definitely take a second to look through all that information. All right, I talk quick, so.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you all about teacher recommendations. So in the spring, students should have asked one or two teachers, my deadline is X, Y, Z, and ideally you're giving them about a 3-4 week window to write that letter, as they have other students that they're writing for, and you want them to give a very thorough letter for your child. So during seminars this week, we will be showing students how to actually prompt that teacher in Naviance. So it's a button that prompts them and sends an email saying, this student has requested you, and therefore the teacher will upload their letter that way. We'll be able to see it in Naviance. So if a student's like, I'm not really sure if my teacher did that letter for me, we can literally see on our side to verify that. So that's one awesome thing about Naviance. We can kind of keep track of what's going on. So in In the event that your student is also asking an outside person, like a coach or a supervisor, a mentor, to write a letter of recommendation for your child, you would also need to have that person upload the letter of recommendation, but using Common App. So there is a Common App outside recommender form that that individual and your student would need to work together to collaborate on and have uploaded. So they would not be using Naviance at all. That's just, an NPS thing. So to reiterate, if you have an additional person, that's absolutely okay. We welcome that. Other people know about your student's journey, especially if they're going for a particular maybe sport or program. It's just you need to ensure that they use that Common App website, and then we at school will use Naviance. And if your student has a question at any point, again, our offices are open. We can verify things, and we can kind of literally sit with our computers right next to each other and help that individual do that work. And yeah, I'm going to pass it on to Miss Celia.
All right, as we pass the baton, I am the anchor of the relay, so to speak. So I want to acknowledge again, as Ms. Slowski said, that this is a lot. You probably have information overload right now, but I encourage you all to use all of us, whether it is our first year at North, or our 4th year, or our 30th. We all have so much experience, we all collaborate as a team, and we are all here to support your student and all of you. So, one thing that I want to reiterate and to remind everyone is that organization is key. Use your spreadsheets, use your planners, put in your dates of every single deadline, every single application requirement, keep organized. And some organizational things that I want to go over is the application. So your child should apply to around 8 to 10 schools, 3 likelies, about 3 to 5 probables, and 2 reaches. So that's one way to think about the different colleges that you and your child are going to be applying to. And really, it's not about the numbers, it's not about the ranking, those are important, but what really is important is the fit. Does your child feel like they belong there? Do they feel that they're able to access everything and that they can be successful in that college? That's what I want to encourage everybody to think about. Be mindful, again, of deadlines, college deadlines, SAT, ACT deadlines, if they're signing up for like one last test before they send their scores out. And also be mindful of financial aid profiles, deadlines. So 2 deadlines that are upcoming are the October 1st, that's when the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, is opening up. So I encourage everybody to fill out those forms to get financial aid from their college. On the same day, October 1st, is when the CSS profile will open, and that's what some private schools will use in addition to FAFSA to determine financial aid amounts. And then, as Ms. Hall said, another couple of deadlines or dates in October. You want to remember October 11th and 12th, which are the college nights. October 12th, FAFSA night. And one last plug for the document that our lovely college and career counselors have put together, the information for the class of 2023 from the college and career counselors. Encourage your students and yourselves to bookmark that and check it regularly for any updates. So again, we are all here to support you, and if you have any questions, reach out. Thank you.
Round of applause for our counselors. All right, now is our portion to answer your questions. We've got a good amount of time, so we can answer questions. So think about them, and I will come around and pass the microphone for you.
So 2 quick questions. Where is that document that you mentioned? And second question, question is, when my older boy graduated, there was scholarships that were given out by local businesses. Is that happening again this year?
I will answer these questions. The information for the class of 2023 Google Doc can be found linked on the homepage of Naviance, on your students' Naviance, and it's also been sent out. It was in the most recent email that came from Ms. Swiderskis through the House office. So it is also linked in there. In terms of the Newton North Scholarship process, that will be happening again. And what that is that's one single application that students can complete, and they'll be considered for dozens of community scholarships. That application typically comes out in like the late November, early December timeline, and then it's due typically the end of January. So we will send students tons of information when that officially goes live, but that will be happening again. So that's really a late fall application, due middle of the winter, and then those local community scholarships are typically awarded by the end of the school year.
Question here.
Clarification on the teacher recommendations. Can a student see in Naviance if the teacher has completed it and it's in place?
Yes. When the teacher completes the recommendation, it will go from requested status to a submitted status or an in-progress status. So that's when they'll know that the teacher has submitted the letter.
And requesting the transfer triggers all of that being sent, the entire recommendations and transfers.
Correct. So when you put your transcript request form in, it then ends up in the student's colleges I'm applying to list in their Naviance account, which then allows the documents to be sent to the colleges.
But just to clarify, the teachers have to be entered into Naviance in order for them to upload their document. So if a transcript request is put in, but the students haven't entered their teachers, there's no letter to be sent. So it's sort of a two-stage passing of the baton.
Also, when it comes to teacher recommendations, colleges are not going to start reviewing files until the deadline hits. So sometimes students get a little anxious thinking, I've asked my teacher to write a recommendation, the deadline is, let's say, November 1st, November 15th, I haven't seen it submitted yet. Teachers do have until that deadline to submit. I will tell you, our teachers are amazing. They get the recommendations in. It's important to remember, it's not like somebody has an edge up or a step up if a recommendation is for some reason processed earlier than the deadline. Colleges truly will not start reviewing, with the exception of rolling admissions, they will not start reviewing applications until the deadline hits. So we encourage students not to drive themselves crazy, constantly refreshing. Teachers have time and they will meet the deadlines, and there's no advantage if a recommendation comes in or is submitted through Naviance earlier than the deadline.
Or drive the teachers crazy by saying, did you do it, did you do it, did you do it? Just no.
And colleges do not penalize students for documents that are late from the school. So the only thing that has to be in on the deadline is the student's side. Everything will get in on time, but I just want to also provide that assurance that your student will not be penalized by the college if a document is a day late from the school.
So this may be an urban myth, but if someone's applying early decision, November 1, are any midterm grades submitted?
Yes, it's not a myth, it's a truth. So even though the deadline may be November 1st, our first quarter grades will reach that admissions office in time to be considered. Usually admissions offices are taking several weeks after their deadline to organize their process, collate their materials. So there definitely will be one quarter's worth of grades, even for November 1st.
I just wanted to ask about the submission of the transcripts and the recommendations when there is rolling admission, because on the form, if you put the deadline, technically the rolling admission deadlines are like next summer, but you want them submitted, soon. So how does that get done?
Yeah, so on that form, there should also be a box that says, I'm applying rolling, I'm applying early action, early decision, regular. So as long as you click the box that says rolling, it will be sent pretty much immediately.
for every single family to fill out a FAFSA application, even if it's unlikely that we will get any aid?
That's a great question. I always err on the side of filling out the FAFSA. I think it's an important document, but I know that like when I've worked with students in the past, they haven't believed that they would get any aid, so they have made the decision not to do it. My kind of thought process and philosophy behind it is that you never know what the colleges can provide, especially when it comes to perhaps not the federal aid, but when it comes to the grants or the specific school-based scholarship. So I think that, or work study. So I think that's why it's important to do the FAFSA, regardless if you think you're going to get any or not. So I do think it's important, but it's ultimately a family decision.
I'm sorry, as a follow-up, would the merit scholarships also be looking at FAFSA, or would that be like a separate consideration?
Yes, in all that we're applying. We had a kid, they didn't apply, then he called the school and asked for a scholarship for additional something they sent it to a particular school, and they told us no, because he didn't apply for FAFSA. So I would say yes.
Right, so there are some scholarships that rely on the student aid report, which is essentially the receipt for filling out your FAFSA, as a means of gauging if it's a need-based scholarship, how much your student might need in addition to what they're getting from FAFSA to fill any gaps. So it's helpful, especially if you're applying to additional scholarships outside of the Newton and Newton North ones, because it, like that family was saying, you might run into a situation, and if you haven't done it, it takes a couple of weeks to get done, you don't want to be behind the ball, so it's helpful, it's definitely helpful.
A good safety net also is to check each individual school that you're applying to, check the school's website for their merit scholarship opportunities, and on that site, it should tell you what documents are required, if anything additional is required. So that's probably your best bet.
Hi, is there a possibility of getting physical transcripts, sealed physical transcripts, if you're applying for out of the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So you still would do the electronic request via the Google form, and then you would incorporate into the form that needs to be sent to an international place, and we would send it, we seal it, put it in the mail, and do all that for you.
Also, depending on the program and the country, sometimes they do want all of the documents together. So we've worked with students to literally collate each of the documents, put them in one big manila envelope, seal it, put the Newton North seal. So the transcripts have to arrive at their destination as if it was completely impossible to see and therefore tamper with. So that's why typically they have to go from institution directly to institution. But if not, they have to be like, Fort Knox basically, and sealed with a signature and a stamp. But we would work together with the student and family.
You had spoken about the teacher recommendations, but could you speak to the counselor recommendation or report? When is the information for that due? Is it depending on the counselor, or is there some deadline? I understand there's a parent contribution to that, but potentially there was some form a parent needs to fill out. I don't know where it is. So that's the second piece of it. And just what does that report look like? Is it a compilation of comments from teachers? If you could speak to that a bit, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
I'll start, but I don't. So we call it a counselor statement, and it comes from the perspective of a person who has had the good fortune of working with students from the start of their career here through to this point. It's part of the packet, if you will, of information that we send. So there's no separate request process for it. The only process to remember is requesting the transcript. Then our registrar, Ms. Stamper, notifies us that that's active, and we know we submitted ourselves, but there's no separate request process. So it's a way to introduce the student from our perspective, what we have seen. We sort of explain it from the very beginning of the student's high school career. Like, we want you to be real, authentic students, still continue to use us authentically. Some students use us a ton, some students don't use us a ton, but they all need us now. But we all know that we need to prepare to do this job for them when the time comes. So regardless of whether it's a lot of in-person meetings, we're always creeping on your kids' experience. We're always watching the midterm comments, we're looking at grades, we're checking in, we're wanting to make sure that when this time comes, we're not strangers. So we're sort of preparing for this letter of introduction.
And just to add to that, there are some pieces of information that help us when we write our counselor statements. So one is that junior questionnaire. That is required. Your seniors have been told that many times. It's in Naviance. So they need to fill that out. If they started to fill out, it's a survey in Naviance. Something happened over the summer, they want to add to it, that's fine. But a counselor statement is not going to be written without that junior questionnaire filled out by the student. It also offers an opportunity for them to reflect, to also show what their proud moments are. So it's really great information that we then confirm with them at our meetings to make sure that when we finalize what we want to highlight. The parent piece is a future plan, it's a parent/guardian future planning questionnaire. That has been linked to the number of emails that have been sent out through the Beals House office. So they're probably signed by me, but they're through Cheryl Stover. And they have been linked to a number of the information documents that we've been sending out prior to this night, and also some last spring. If you can't find that, reach out to your school counselor and they will get that to you. The counselor statement also includes teacher comments that the students had asked for a teacher back in sophomore year and in junior year. It gives another kind of holistic view of how the student does in a particular class, a moment of time. But what the counselor does is able to kind of pull that all together in this nice narrative. A lot of times we've also found from a college perspective, they can't read 2 pages of narrative. They don't have the time. They want to know like what they can really sink their teeth into. So we have a template that is consistent, but it is customized to highlight every single wonderful thing that your children have been doing over their high school career.
Hi. Did you provide any guidance around early decision versus early action, and specifically what that means for financial aid and, having students commit?
So early decision is binding. So that means that that student is agreeing to go to that school no matter what the finances look like, no matter what. So you're saying, I, the student, am agreeing, and they're checking a box and signing. If they're 18 or if they're under 18, a family member is also checking off that you understand financially, merit-wise, like everything. You're okay with that. And it's usually the student's like #1 dream school, right? Like they've gone, they've seen it, they love it. It has the program they want. It doesn't matter what the dorms look like, food, like that is their #1. And so not only does the student agree, the family agrees, and then we agree that we've had a conversation about what this truly means. And so what happens is if that individual child gets into that school, they are canceling all of their other applications. They are saying, thank you so much, I did the work, but I'm going here. And so some schools might have their financial aid deadline in alignment with early action and early decision deadlines. So you just want to look at those schools and double check what those deadlines actually are. As some schools might have deadlines that are out, March 1, April 1, but some schools very much have deadlines that are closer in the winter. Early action is saying, hey, I want to be considered for an earlier deadline. That's usually anywhere between like October, I would even say as far as December, maybe January 1. And I am not bound to anything, right? So I can submit all of my applications, I can look at all of my applications, I can look at all of my financial aid, I can have conversations with folks at school, in my community, about like what the best fit might be, but I'm thinking that I'm pretty interested, or it might be a selective program like a nursing, engineering, maybe even an arts where I have to submit a portfolio, but I want to be considered as early as possible so I can get a decision as early as possible. Now, a lot of schools have also decided like early action 1 and early action 2, so you also want to be mindful of what might be the best bet. Do I want to wait until I have my quarter 1 grades? Do I want to go without my quarter 1 grades, but know that I feel confident in them so that when they go to that school, you know, I'm presenting my best self. And again, you get to look at your finances, you get to look at everything, you get to have a full review, but it's really for the programs that are selective in some sense. Again, your student is probably very interested in the school, could be their number 1, could be number 5, doesn't really matter. It's just, I would rather have some sort of idea of what I'm doing by the holiday season. Oh no, early decisions kind of like one and done. Early action can be an array. So I could have one early decision school, multiple early action, and I might have some even like regular decision. But the big difference between early decision and early action is I am bound. Legally that too, right? Legality, that's kind of important, right? So it's a full conversation that we're having with your student, you're having with your student, and therefore, we're hoping for the best.
Time for 2 questions, one here and here.
Can I say one more thing about early decision?
In the corner.
Sorry, hey, speaking from the corner. I believe, if financial aid is a super big part of this process for your family, then early decision may not be the way to go because you only see one school's financial aid package. Make sense? So if you want to like have some other options, because remember, you're also like, I teach students that loan is a bad 4-letter word, debt is a bad 4-letter word, and you want to be able to compare how much those loans may be versus grant, scholarship, if the school has merit aid, that kind of stuff. So just a little nugget for you to think about regarding early decision and financial aid.
Thank you, Ms. Sandy. We have a question here.
Thank you. Yes. You mentioned gap year program. What does that mean? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, there's so many different kind of gap year programs. There are some that are sponsored by organizations like Where There Be Dragons, Rustic Pathways, which are typically travel-based programs. They might involve some type of community service or civic engagement. Right in I know like the Boston area, there's a program called City Year, where they're working within the city. Someone like could be the governor's office, could be in the schools, but they're spending time within the city. So there's stuff like that. And then gap years also could include going off to, if a student has been doing a CTE program here over the course of these 4 years, they might go work right in a kitchen somewhere. So that could be a gap year too. It doesn't have to necessarily be sponsored by an organization like the ones I mentioned. But it could be a fantastic option for so many students, especially if they're not really sure what they might want to do post-high school.
We do encourage students, if they are considering a gap year, to still go through the process of applying to schools, because it's much easier when they're here at North to go through the motions, go through the process, and then they can work with the family and the counselor to talk about deferring. So once they hear, whether they've been accepted or not, they can defer. Colleges on the whole do respect the fact that many students, once they know that they're going to be going to a school, want to take a year to do X, Y, or Z. So some students are not sure what they want to do. We do encourage them to go through the whole process, and then they have the opportunity to decide whether or not they want to do a gap year.
Hey, one more thing for me about that. Sorry, the old lady in the corner speaks. Listen, if your child's thinking of doing a gap year, you don't mention that in the college application process. Makes sense? The college does not need to know that your child might not actually step foot on that campus the following fall. So it's like, my lips are sealed.
when you get your acceptances and you figure out, okay, this is my soulmate, I'm going there, the money works, then you have a conversation about taking a gap year. And the college may want to say, okay, fine, what are you doing? And it doesn't have to be a $40,000 gap year program. It could be, I'm working to save money to pay your tuition. Got it? And they might want something in writing. Just saying.
My question is basically to Jillian again regarding the test scoring and what the decision whether we should submit or not. So part of our kind of summer activities involved talking with the admissions officer, and one thing we learned that regarding this holistic approach is that sometimes they compare scores for students, applicants coming from the same school. So my question is there a way for us as parents to find out the average SAT, ACT scores for the Newton North High School seniors?
Others can correct me if I'm wrong with that. We don't have that data available. The way that we have captured the data in Naviance and through the senior survey, which is how we collect students from the seniors once they've graduated about their process, is basically to the extent to which I shared, is that we know the percentage of students that submitted to all of their schools, that submitted to some, and that submitted to none. But we don't have any way of sifting through data to know what percentage for which school submitted and what their outcome was, which is I think what you're saying. So the way that we have been typically advising students is if their score falls within the mid-50th percentile of what the college shares as the accepted student data from the prior year, to consider submitting the scores. And so we certainly, are sitting down with students and going through the list with the student's test score, and we're providing what we would suggest the student do in terms of submitting or not submitting, and that is the data that we are typically relying on.
One thing I'll just add, Jillian is of the college and career counselors, our statistician. She's always giving us like amazing data. And one is that we were really monitoring our weighted GPA change last year, and both that and with the test optional. And I think what we found with last year's class, and this would be the first class to really experience it, is that there were students who in a previous year would not have been considered for some of the more competitive colleges were now being considered. And so that there really was a positive to some students not submitting if they're submitting to one of their reaches. And we also noticed that not having a weighted GPA is that more students looked viable to some of the more competitive colleges. So I think that speaks to the holistic approach, and clearly we're only working on only a year's worth of data. We were really impressed that some students who typically may not have been accepted before were getting considered, and we're getting in. So that's really exciting, I think, particularly when we've been trying to really think through this for Newton North. So this is a fantastic group. You got some great answers, so we can give them a round of applause. And as I said, if you didn't get an answer, ask a question today. They are here to ask questions. And we will see you at Back to School Night on Thursday. Thank you.